Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backlot Banter. I'm Pendarkster, joined as always by my good friend and co-host and fellow box office enthusiast, Tucker Hazel. We are here to talk about the month that was at the box office, October 2024. Tucker, we are here more specifically, of course, we have to roll it into every intro, to talk some box
Box
office
office.
ballyhoo.
Ballyhoo.
That's right, that's right. But before we get too far into it, before we get too carried away here, folks, I want to remind you to, like this video, subscribe to the channel, blah, 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 blah. If you do want to, the more important thing is, and you should pay attention to
Yeah.
this,
Okay.
if you like talking box office stuff, movie stuff, video games, comics,
Yeah.
music, cooking, anything anything under the sun, you can
Cool.
join our Discord
Ah.
server. The link for that is in the description down below. Join that up. We have a good time there. I
Join
promise you.
that up, boys.
Join that up, boys. Boy, have I ever let you stray with the Discord server now?
Yeah.
I'd never.
Tanner,
I would never do that.
let's talk
Tucker,
about some movies.
as I mentioned, October 2024. Let's take a look at where we always start with the top 10 domestic openings of that month.
Yeah.
Numero uno are our good friends Eddie and Venom in
Yes.
Venom: The Last Dance with $51 million.
Yeah. How could
Um,
this be profitable for the Sony Corporation?
they made $50 million. Following that up, in the rest of the top five is number two, Joker Folie with
hmm
37.6 million. Smile
Joker
two,
fell to second place. Oh,
yes, falling to second place.
yeah.
Smile 2 at number 3 with $23 million. Damian Leone's Terrifier 3 with $18.9 million. And Conclave bringing up that number 5 slot with $6.6 million.
Yeah. And the top 10 is filled out at number 6 by Piece by Piece. Number 7, Saturday Night. Number 8, My Hero Academia, You're Next. Number 9, the re-release of The Nightmare Before Christmas. And number 10, the 10th highest grossing domestic October opening of 2024 is The Apprentice.
Wow.
Yeah. Congratulations to Donald Trump.
Well,
Bring out the
hope,
rear.
hey, maybe he'll end there in the presidential race as well.
Yeah, 10th
10th
place. Yeah.
place.
American dream.
All right, Tucker. Now, we did predict the top five last month when we talked about September's box office.
Yeah.
And I would say that neither of us did super hot. The box office wasn't super hot during the month of October anyway.
Mm.
So we can sort of talk this out here. I'll pull up my numbers just to compare and contrast. But
And Tanner, you did fine. You
okay.
got 4 out of 5 of them on there, and you got 3 out of 5 in the correct place. I mean,
That's fair.
that's just about as good as you can hope
Yeah,
for, to be
I
honest.
think I'm mostly thinking that my numbers were way off.
Oh, that's
'Cause,
probably true.
because I said that the Venom: The Last Dance would make $90 million.
Oh, that's quite off, yes.
Yeah, that's way off. And then Joker Folie I said 60. Ended up making what,
Now,
37,
that
right?
was based off of the fact that Venom Let There Be Carnage in 2021 opened to $90 million, and
Yeah.
that's even higher adjusted for inflation. But so Venom's, as we'll talk when we get there, that
Mhm.
was not insane to predict,
Right.
because this is an underperformance for sure.
Yeah, it is. And we'll talk about that. You're right. Smile 2, I said 30, so closer on that
Yeah,
one. And then I said Saturday Night would be fourth place with $10 million. Did not even crack the top
no.
five there. Um,
Yeah, I mean, Conclave had 6, so not even close.
yeah. And then Terrifier 3, I said would make $8 million in fifth place. Ended up making 18,
Yeah,
jumping to number 4. So
yeah.
pretty impressive all around.
Yep, but not for me because I just got a lot of stuff wrong.
No, it's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
We'll
Now
tell
let's talk
you.
about
Okay.
the scores that movies got this month. How did people like these damn things?
Hmm.
The cinema scores and the Rotten Tomatoes were skewed positive this month.
Yeah.
Both Joker and Venom, which were by far the biggest blockbusters of the month,
Hmm.
coming in the top 2 highest grossing and biggest openings.
We're
They
also the
were the
worst
ones people.
received.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
the worst received. Joker Folie à at a D cinema score is what, one of like 20
I think
movies
I think I've
ever.
heard 3 this decade
Oh,
now.
okay,
Yeah.
which is really, really legendarily terrible,
Yes,
frankly.
yes, it is. I mean, last month we talked about Megalopolis, which was a bigger financial flop to be
Yeah,
certain. But even that scored better. That got a D plus cinema
sure.
score.
Yeah.
I think Rotten Tomatoes might have been lower though. Hang on, let me check. Let me
For
check on that.
Megalopolis,
Yeah,
yeah, I think
Megalopolis.
so. If I'm reading our graph here, our little tomatometer,
Uh-huh.
Joker Folie à Deux is sitting around like a
No.
33 or something like that.
Yeah, Megalopolis has a 48 on Rotten Tomatoes,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Things are looking up for Francis
Things are
Ford
looking
Coppola.
up. That's right. It's all coming back. He's jumping back now, you know?
Yeah. And
Um,
FFC, if you just put it in theaters, everyone will go see it. We were all busy that weekend.
we were all busy that weekend. We gotta go see it again.
Yep.
And then, yeah, you have our 2 horror releases of the month, Terrifier 3 and Smile 2 with a B. Pretty
Well, I
solid for
mean,
horror films.
Venom and Joker are horror movies in their own way.
That's true.
Yeah.
Horrible movies.
Yes.
Anywho's be and Terrifier 3 is scoring quite well on Rotten Tomatoes with
Yeah.
critics, tied with Saturday Night, which is kind of like a awards hopeful film.
Mhm.
So very interesting to see a horror film up in those leagues. But even higher is Smile 2, which has like an 86, I want to say, if I'm
Yeah.
remembering correctly. We'll
Yeah.
we'll talk about that in a second. But
Certified fresh.
certified fresh. All these are certified fresh, I think,
Oh, okay.
including yes, Piece by Piece, which was the highest cinema score of
Mhm.
the month as well.
Yeah. And I would say probably the least talked about of all
Yep,
these movies.
that's
Yeah.
that. Tucker, you'd be correct. You'd be
But we'll get
correct.
there. Tanner,
Yeah.
let's start where the month started, though,
Uh huh.
with Joker, Folie à Deux,
Uh huh.
released on October 4th, 2024, directed by Todd Phillips, and sitting at a whopping $201 million total.
Tucker.
And it is gone. It's dead. It was already
Yeah,
on Max.
it is. Well, no, it's on PVOD. It's on
Oh,
PVOD
oh,
right
oh,
now.
but it'll be there soon, probably,
Yeah,
right?
it'll be on Mac probably before the end of the year.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, it released on PVOD 3 weeks after its theatrical release. I want to say a little
Mhm.
over 3 weeks after. So always a good sign. And
Yeah.
Tucker, we
That's the kind of
recently,
turnaround we see for, like Cocaine Bear. Like, this is when
yes,
Paramount does that with their
yes,
movies, like, "Oh, we're just trying to get some money out of this."
yeah,
And
um,
clearly, Warner Brothers trying to do somewhat of the same with
yeah.
Joker Folie à Deux,
We
with a
stumbled
$800
upon,
million
yeah,
dollar drop of the total from the first movie, which is a $1 billion
yeah.
grosser, nominated for Best Picture, and Joker
Hmm.
Folie à Deux will hit neither of those marks.
That's right. Multiple Oscar nominee, multiple Oscar winner, made $1 billion. Outgrossed Joker 2019, of course, outgrossed the entire haul of Joker Folie in its opening weekend.
Wait, hold on. Over $200 million domestic opening weekend?
Not
Oh,
domestically.
total.
Globally, it made
Okay. Just want to
more than
clarify
two
that.
hundred million dollars its opening weekend,
That's
and
crazy.
of course, opening weekend domestic was 96 million, and this has made $58 million so far
Yeah.
domestically.
Oh, well, that's interesting. It's actually
Yeah.
very interesting that there's a such a heavy split towards the international market here. I don't exactly know why that would be,
I
but
think
it
I
happened.
think it's just because Joker was strangely like a really big international hit
Mhm.
back in 2019. So I think that the sort of residual effects have lasted there, and I think there's just a different scope of interest here in America,
Mhm.
especially for like musicals. I think
Hmm.
other regions of the world might be more in tune to something like that.
Good pun.
Yeah, and I think there's been a larger cultural shift surrounding
Away from
Joker.
Joker. Yeah.
Yeah, domestically than there
That's
has
certainly
been
true.
internationally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what I was trying to say though, Tucker, is that we in the past month have stumbled across a little inside joke, which is the how can X be a failure? It made X million dollars.
Yes.
And that's what I was trying to get in there. It's like, how can Joker Folie do be a failure? It made $200 million. Well, that's
That's a
because
lot of
it
money.
also cost $200 million to make.
Yes, which is almost 4 times the budget of the original movie. We talked about this being Joker Folie à Deux making $800 million less total than its first film, but it also cost almost 4 times more. And so, any way you slice it, it's a massive, massive downgrade. And it doesn't pay off for anyone. I mean, this is
No.
damaging to the directors' careers, the actors' careers.
Yes.
Warner Brothers is really disappointing in it because this was supposed to be their like big grosser of the year,
Yeah,
frankly.
they were supposed to have two back-to-back slam dunks in Beetlejuice, and Joker Folie à Deux,
Yeah.
and now they are set to lose anywhere from 150 to $200 million on this project,
Yeah.
which is quite unfortunate for them, I would say.
Mhm.
But in hindsight, a lot of people, and we're over a month away from this film's release now, so everyone has sort of analyzed and Sunday morning quarterbacked the release
Yeah,
of Joker Folie Deux already, or Monday morning quarterback, I should say. That's the phrase. But
it's actually
anyway,
Sunday morning right now. Sorry.
it is Sunday morning.
Yeah,
We're Sunday morning quarterbacking right
yeah,
now. And the issue there being is that like clearly Warner Brothers did not know how to market this thing at
of
all.
course,
Like
absolutely.
you could have generated public interest if it were less of like a publicly abrasive project from
Hmm.
Todd Phillips, who
Yeah,
clearly was like trying to diffuse or undercut a lot of the things done in Joker 2019, a lot of
totally.
the things that at least $1 billion worth of people really enjoyed.
Hmm.
And then clearly it's such an unwieldy sort of prospect to try and tell people what it's about or summarize or get
Hmm.
people hooked into the story that Warner Brothers was clearly just at a loss for this, and they were kind of just hoping that like the name recognition of Joker
Yeah,
would carry it to be some sort of success here,
100%.
and it absolutely did not. I mean, if
Yeah,
anything, this is a testament to how powerful word of mouth really is, because it of course had a 81.4% drop into its
yeah.
second weekend.
And when you mention how powerful word of mouth is, you're meaning it in this sense in the negative way
Of
of
course.
people seeing the Rotten Tomatoes be so low, having all of their friends say, "What the hell is this? It's actually a musical." Like,
Hmm.
Joker dies at the end. All these things that end up pushing the initial audience away. People talk and they talk on social media, and this movie got a lot of bad buzz
It
just
did.
almost immediately.
Hmm.
And it's interesting though when you think about the prospects going into this of this being an almost immediately greenlit sequel. I'm sure some of this budget was inflated because they've been working on it for 5 years. That's over the
Hmm.
pandemic, at least partially. And you have here as one of our bullet points that it would have needed $375 million to break even.
Yes.
That is that is actually reasonable when you think about the fact that it's a sequel to a $1 billion movie, and
Yeah.
even it
Yeah.
even only made half of what Joker had made, it would have
Yeah.
been a profitable film for the Warner Brothers
Exactly. And
Corporation.
like
And so when you
honestly
think about a
speaking, yeah.
$200 million budget and
Mhm.
$175 million of marketing for a sequel to a $1 billion movie, that does make sense. And in
Yes.
the mind of the producers, the more money you throw at something, the bigger it's
Uh-huh.
going to be. And so they probably thought, oh, you 4 times the budget, it's not going to make 4 times the amount of money,
It's
but
not
it's
gonna
going
make
to make
$4 billion.
$1.2 billion
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
$1.5 billion. They probably thought that. And so it feels crazy in retrospect. But when you think about the way this movie was made from its inception as a sequel to a $1 billion movie, a surprise hit, trying to
Mhm.
carry forward that momentum, the $200 million budget and $175 million prints and advertising is not insane.
No. Tucker, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Is that like if you're a Warner Brothers executive, you're doing the math on this. Is like we made $1 billion off of $50 million, essentially.
I mean, that's one of the craziest return on investments in cinema history.
Exactly. And so you're like, yeah, I mean, if we make $1 billion again off of $200 million, that's what they normally think with
Yeah,
with their superhero projects or whatever you're
totally.
doing.
Yeah,
Um, and now as the release of the film ticked closer and closer and things weren't looking up, they're like, well, if we make at least
at least half.
four $500 million, then we'll be in the green, we'll be in the black on that one.
In the black, yeah.
Um, lo
Well,
and
in the green, you
behold,
say green because it's Joker.
exactly.
Yes.
Lo and behold, they've barely squeaked past 200.
Yeah, and Tanner, they ended up in the green on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's true. That's I think at a certain extent, to a certain point, that's what really matters. That's
Yeah,
what really matters
and you
here.
want to be in the what you really want to do is be in the red on Rotten Tomatoes because that means you
Yes.
have a fresh tomato.
It just gets confusing for the executives.
Yeah, and
They
if you're
really have
colorblind,
hard
it's even
jobs
worse.
with the colors and the numbers. It's all really confusing
And then
for
there's
them.
squares and circles, and they're trying to put the triangle
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
square hole, and they're like, "What the hell?"
It's tough. It's tough
Yeah,
to be a film studio executive. It's
yeah.
really tough. Tucker, anything else we want to talk about here?
Well,
I mean,
biggest
you're right.
second weekend drop ever for a comic book movie.
Yes.
Mr. Research Dykstra, what is number one?
What is number one? I would have looked into it, wouldn't I have? Wouldn't I have?
I mean, you must have,
I
right?
must have. What was it? Hang on. Tucker, while I look this up, you wanna talk about a bit about how like are Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix like screwed now? Like what's going on here?
Joaquin Phoenix will be able to. I think actually both of them. I think they'll be able to have a comeback. I think that Todd Phillips probably wants to recenter himself creatively. Maybe go back to comedies. That's where he found his initial success. And Joaquin Phoenix has been a big enough name for a long period of time that this is just it's a stain on his career, absolutely. But he also won Best Actor for the first movie, and he still is very talented. So, and he's always kind of been like a dillweed to work with, as far as I know. So like, it's not like this is going to damage him too much. He'll find another project. He'll be acclaimed for whatever it is, and so I think both of them will be fine. And Lady Gaga, she's fine. This is not the main thrust of her career, so she'll be
Yeah,
okay.
that's fair. Yeah. As other, I was thrown into a tizzy trying to research something, but it's in fact your failure of ability to read that did this. It's
Oh,
the
biggest second. I
biggest
heard the biggest.
second weekend.
I saw it
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
I
that's
saw it
right.
too. There, I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
must be second.
it is the biggest second week drop for a comic book movie ever. And if we're going by Box Office
Kids these days
Mojo,
can't have such low literacy. You
that's
know,
true. If we're going by Box Office Mojo, it is the 20 biggest second weekend drop ever for any
20th.
movie.
Wow.
Number 20.
Yeah. What's number 19? If you're looking at that list, just for
Um,
fun.
Bad Moon.
I've never heard of that in my life. Have I heard of number 21?
Return to the Blue Lagoon.
Nope. Fair enough.
Uh, 22 is the Friday the 13th remake.
The Bay one,
Yeah,
the Platinum Dunes
the
one.
patent. Other notable titles that finished. Let's say that finished or had a worse second weekend drop. I'll do notable titles here. Number 15 is Gigli.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I'm not gonna count re-releases. That seems like
Yeah, no, that's
seems like
ridiculous.
number 5, hey, shout out 2024. Number 5 is Boy Kills World.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? What percentage does it say?
It had a 85.1% drop.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Those are rookie numbers. Let's bump those number up.
yeah. But those are all the only notable. Number 1 is a movie called Collide.
Yeah.
What the hell is
What
that?
year was that?
Anyway, we should move on.
All right, let's move on to the second movie that came out this month, and one of the only ones that's like a true-blooded surprise success.
Yes.
Terrifier 3 is built off the bones of two previous movies that have continued to gain popularity, gain cult status, and gain box office presence. And now Terrifier 3 is a $61 million grossing film on a budget of $2 million with
I
a
mean, hey.
78% certified fresh Rotten Tomatoes score.
Mhm.
Art the Clown is a bona fide modern horror icon now. These movies are massively financially successful, actually. They always have been. But this was a full rollout. This was this was an indie movie that was then put into a bunch of theaters and marketed to the right audience, and word of mouth was great. And $61 million on a $2 million budget. You can't get better than that, frankly.
I mean, they are. Imagine how many terrifying movies you can make with that kind of capital.
Yeah. We're gonna have like Terrifier 40.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's a self-perpetuating machine, but no, I mean, it honestly is like the box office success story of the month. I mean,
Yeah.
we sort of try to single those out every month that we talk about
Totally.
something, but like this is perhaps the biggest success story, the craziest outcome
Hmm.
uh maybe of the year. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is an independent horror film,
Hmm.
extremely abrasive, extremely alienating to its audience, outside of a very niche horror audience.
Yeah.
And it ended up being number 1 at the domestic box office the
Hmm.
weekend that it came out. It has outgrossed all of its previous installments during its opening weekend. And it's
Yeah.
really interesting how this is like the silver lining, the good ending for Joker Folie Deux is
Mm.
Terrifier 3. The opposite story of basically everything. Killer clown movie, whatever.
Sure.
Um, and Joker 2019 being, outgrossing Folie Deux in its opening weekend. Terrifier 3 outgrossed both of its previous
Yeah.
installments in its opening weekend.
Though to be fair, that's not a particularly high
Of
bar
course,
because
yes.
they were much smaller movies, a lot more limited. Those were like I think fully limited release, and so
Yes.
this was a lot wider. And I think that what this indicates is not necessarily that this is a significantly better movie than what came before. I think the first one we would agree is certainly the weakest, but I think you and I agree that Terrifier 2 and 3 are on similar level of quality.
Yeah.
And it's good that they can continue that. But that $2 million budget I think you feel it on screen in terms of performances, in terms of cinematography. We talk about that in
Mhm.
our review. But really, what this is success of here is marketing. This movie was properly marketed, which the first two movies didn't really have the budget for,
Yeah, well
and it reached its audience, and people talked about it for years and saw Terrifier 2 on streaming
mhm,
and on probably on Shutter. I don't really know if it's on there, but probably.
mhm.
And now it was be able to be hyped up, and you can. I only see this building for if there is a Terrifier 4 or for whatever Damien
Yeah, well,
Leone's
yeah,
next
they
project
they've
is.
they've confirmed Terrifier 4. I think that was confirmed, like, the day after this movie came out or
Sure.
something like that. And yeah, you spend $500,000 on marketing. The distributor Cineverse did that,
Hmm.
and yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating the marketing cycle or the marketing sort of strategy here because ultimately you don't need to do trailers or posters or billboards or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
pop-up ads for Terrifier 3. These films are notorious on a level that they market themselves to a certain
Sure.
extent,
Yeah, yeah.
which is kind of the ideal scenario for any studio, let alone a small distributor, a small indie team making these films. Is
Hmm.
that they've taken on a life of their own amongst horror fans, but also people on the outside who are aren't necessarily tapped into the new releases or anything who are like, oh, have you heard about these Terrifier movies? They're making a third one. It's coming out. They're super violent. You won't believe the kind of stuff they put in there. It's gross. It's nasty. People are throwing up whenever they watch these movies. I mean, that is the kind of thing that we saw, in a similar realm, like Longlegs do earlier this summer.
Sure.
And it's
Yeah.
like it is the scariest thing you've ever seen, and it
Hmm.
becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. It becomes a snowball effect of people talk about it with their friends, like, "Hey, apparently this movie's really scary." Terrifier 3, apparently this movie's really gory. Like they're chopping off arms. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like the team really needs here,
Hmm.
and it happened with Terrifier 3 to a great success, to a great appeal. And I just have to wonder if like, are we looking at Terrifier 4? Doing like
Oh,
$25 million opening
absolutely.
weekend? Like,
100%.
you know,
100%. Because also, I think that the great part about this, I think the most surprising part about this isn't the building word of mouth, isn't the increasing budget, isn't the increasing box office. I frankly expected all those things coming out of watching Terrifier 2 and knowing how popular that movie was compared to its scale. That was a massively successful movie, return on investment. But what I'm most surprised at is that it's 78% Rotten Tomatoes. The
yeah,
critics even really thought that this was a
yes,
well-made movie,
yes,
and so it's receiving flowers that even like if you look at the many installment of horror franchises that have been around, usually they start to dip, especially in terms of their reception. But I think Terrifier 3 sits in an interesting place where it's a very direct continuation of what came before, but
hmm
more people are getting eyes on this, and it's being treated as a major horror release, and the right
yeah,
people are going to see it, and the right people are reviewing it. And yeah, I mean, Damien Leone, when we are like 60 years old and he's ending his career,
uh-huh.
like we're gonna look back at the probably like 15 horror movies he made and like the franchises he started and be like,
mhm.
Terrifier 2 and 3 are really where it all began.
Yes, I mean that's exactly right. Um, I did have to do some scrolling, some trolling, some digging through box office records for
We do a
this.
little scrolling here.
Yes, it is the first indie horror film to be number one at the box office since the Amityville Horror in 1979.
That's crazy. That's such a
I
long
was
time ago,
I
Taylor.
was looking for like the first
My father
independent.
was younger than us
Yeah,
when that came out.
yeah. I mean, both of my parents would not have been old enough to go see the Amityville Horror. Let's just say that.
Sure.
Um, so I mean, it's really impressive. It's really crazy. And of course, I was looking like what other indie films have been number one at the box office, but like technically A24 films are all independent features. So like
Hmm.
Civil War was technically the last one to be number one at the
Sure.
box office.
Yeah.
So there you go. But still super impressive for like indie horror is kind of a different animal than indie film writ
Totally.
large.
Yeah.
So it's really cool for them.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Cool, guys. That's all we have to say. Thanks, Damien
yeah.
Leone. Cool.
It's
Good for you.
cool stuff.
Let's talk about piece by piece.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait,
The first.
I mean, there's one number here that catches my eye.
Yep. What is that,
Zero
Tucker?
dollars internationally?
Correct. That's right. That's right. Yes.
Um, what the fuck, Focus Features?
Well, no, the Focus Features is in charge of distribution
Oh,
domestically. Yeah, this is a
okay,
finger
hold on.
pointing at Universal for the
Gotcha.
international distribution
For not.
for not doing it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Piece by Piece is a Lego biopic,
that's right.
which is crazy about Pharrell Williams. I actually have not seen it. I would like to, just because the concept is just so
Hmm.
fascinating to me. But talk a little bit about this movie, because this is one of the only ones we didn't review
Yeah.
this month, and also talk about the fact that this movie has made less than $10 million, $16 million budget. Actually, I'm going to talk about that later because I think that's
Okay.
actually fascinating. But what's going on here?
So Tucker, you say it's a biopic. It's actually like a documentary. Is kind of how I would frame this.
Okay.
It's not like a narrative biopic, like a Bohemian Rhapsody or something else might be. It is narrated by Pharrell through the lens of like him sitting down talking to Lego Morgan Neville, the director of the film.
Oh,
Um, so it's like it's narrated through that way, and it goes through his entire life. Sort of a cradle to not grave situation. Pharrell is still alive and well, but a cradle to
today.
effectively like 2014
Oh, okay.
happy situation. Yeah,
Oh, sure. I see.
that's kind of where it ends. Is they sort of position that as like his big comeback, and like now he's as successful as ever or whatever.
Yeah. And is
So
that true?
it's I mean I'd say Pharrell has sort of settled into a very pleasant place right now where he's
Sure.
not in the public eye as much as he was, 15, 20 years ago. He gets massive paychecks, both from the replays on his song. He still does produce music a lot too, which is kind of how he made his bones in the music industry was as a producer, not necessarily as a musical act himself.
Yeah.
And then every 3-4 years he does a Despicable Me song and gets, I
Yeah.
don't know, $10 million or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever.
You can coast on that for a couple of
He
years.
can coast on that. But yeah, I mean, my thing with Piece by Piece has always been, I don't know, who are you getting in the theater with this?
Apparently, very few.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so it has
A
the
$3
like,
million, or let's just say $4 million domestic opening
mhm,
is really, really bad for a major theatrical film with a major pop star attached to
mhm.
it. Uh, and it's not like this movie received a small marketing cycle. We were seeing the trailer for
Yeah,
this for a long
I
time.
mean, I got pop-up ads, all kinds of stuff for Piece by Piece.
Yeah. It's just it. I think it literally just was the concept was too confusing, and
Yeah,
I have to say that I am I'm still happy that this happened, because it's just it's ridiculous. I mean,
it's really weird.
someone's got to be pushing the boundaries of what film can do, because we always see people being like, oh, no one's doing anything interesting with movies anymore. It's
Uh-huh.
like, well, Pharrell Williams had a Lego semi-documentary biopic made about him. That
Mhm.
if that's not an insane inversion on genre, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean, this project was his idea too. They confirmed that in the film and in interviews that like people, after a lot, especially after the success of like Happy, and he had this massive hit song. People were like, "Hey, Pharrell, you should like make a movie about yourself. Like, you should do some sort of biopic, maybe a book or something like that." He's like, "No, I mean everyone does a book and everyone does a biopic. I don't want to do
Yeah,
that." And then he comes back. I think, 5 years later, I think he said 2019 was kind of the year that came to him. He's like, "I want to make a movie, a documentary, a biopic, whatever about myself. I want to make it in Lego."
yeah.
And
Did he
the
like slip on his kid's toys and hit his head or something?
maybe. Hey, maybe he stepped on a couple of
And he's like,
Legos and hit his head.
oh,
Oh.
ah.
Yeah, and this is so back in 2019, the Lego property, the Lego title or
Yeah.
what the rights or whatever would have been held by Warner Brothers. That changed over in 2020, I want
Mhm.
to say. Oh yeah, I have it down here. It changed over to Universal in 2020, and this is the first film made under the new Lego Universal banner.
Ah.
So there's that. We'll kind of have to see what else they do there. We have a headline relating to that, after all, coming up in a bit.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, he brought on Morgan Neville, who is this very famous documentary filmmaker. Has
Mhm.
had a couple Oscar-nominated, Oscar-winning documentaries come
Yeah.
out. Is especially adept in doing like celebrity documentaries. He earlier this year had a two-part one on Apple TV Plus about Steve Martin that was very
Mm.
well celebrated.
Oh,
So
okay.
he does piece by piece, and I mean, it just comes. It was well liked by people who went to go see it. I thought it was okay. It got an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, and A Cinema score 7.1 on IMDb. Like the people who went to go see it seem to enjoy it quite a
Yeah.
bit. I mean, it's very well animated. The music obviously is all Pharrell produced and everything like that. So
Mhm.
it's super tight, super entertaining. Um, it's just that like the story itself is not super interesting, I
Sure.
would say, because like the drama that they have to they try to derive out of Pharrell's life is not super compelling, I would
Yeah.
say. Pharrell is not like a tragic figure like a, I don't know, like a Michael Jackson or a Freddie Mercury or a Whitney
Mhm.
Houston or whatever. Like he grew up in, a pretty harsh neighborhood, saw a quick rise to success. You worked really hard, of course, is very talented, worked with a lot of interesting artists and everything like that, and then like had a patch where he didn't have a hit song for a couple of years, and that they try to position that as like the his dark descent,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
his
Because there's gotta
where
be some third act, second act conflict.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's where they usually have like, and then they get hooked on drugs or whatever. But like Pharrell didn't. I mean, he doesn't put it in this movie if it happened. But this is
Yeah.
a
It
children's
hasn't
movie
happened
after
yet.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they try to position that as like, oh yeah, he didn't have a hit song for a couple years,
Mhm.
and then he made Happy, and everything was good.
Yeah, and then everyone clapped.
And everyone clapped, and
Yeah.
everyone's happy.
I do want to point out 2 things. Number
Okay.
1, I wanna point out that, I currently live in Austin, Texas.
Uh huh.
It is a major metropolitan area, many, many movie screens. This film is not showing anymore at
Interesting.
AMC, which is the
Yeah.
biggest movie chain in the country.
Hmm.
Nowhere in my 15-mile vicinity uh, is an
Can you
AMC
see piece
showing this.
by piece?
I'm sure there's like some smaller theater that I could find it at still.
Hmm.
But and this has actually been true for like the last week and a half because I was thinking, oh, I'm moving back here. I didn't see piece by piece. I have AMC A list now.
Hmm.
I'll just go
Go
catch
catch it.
it.
Yeah.
Uh, can't.
No.
And I think it's just because there just wasn't any appetite for it. I think
No. I mean,
it does seem like it
Universal
was
probably
well.
pulled this pretty quick.
Yeah, it does seem like it was well received for what it was, but the final thing that I want to point out is the $16 million budget, especially for from what I've seen, from what you've said, it's a quality animated film. Is really really impressive. I was just looking at the budgets of the other Lego films. There have been four major theatrically released Lego films: the
Hmm.
Lego Movie, Lego Batman movie, Lego Movie Two, the Lego Ninjago movie. Those range from $60 million to $99 million in their budgets. And
Hmm.
would you say, having seen piece by piece, that it feels like a notable step down in animation quality or anything?
Honestly, no. I mean, they still are doing like fantastical stuff with it. I think the running time probably has something to do with that because none of those Lego movies are. I mean, this one's like less than 90 minutes without
Oh,
if
okay.
you take credits out.
Mhm.
I mean, this the first Lego movie is probably over 90 minutes, probably.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, hold
Yeah.
on. Lego Movie is 9 hour 40. A
Uh huh.
Lego Movie 2 hour 43
Yeah. I
or
mean,
hour 37 something like
there's
that.
like there's less intensive animation. There is less of a like celebrity voice cast you have to pay.
Mhm.
Because it's again, like I said, mostly Pharrell doing the narration here.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
occasionally you'll get like
Yeah, and I'm sure he didn't cut a
Jay-Z will
massive
do
check
like
for his own promotional thing that's making
yeah.
himself like blowing smoke up his own ass.
Jay-Z will come in and do like a line, or Gwen Stefani will be like, hey, yeah, I worked with Pharrell and he was really cool. So
Yeah.
like you're not
You
paying
give him
out
like
the
300
big
bucks
bucks.
for that. I don't
Exactly.
know.
So yeah, I mean, I don't see a lot of like that kind of cost going into this. And the
Mhm.
animation, I should say, does not feel like a step down in terms of
That's mostly what I
quality.
meant. Yeah.
It's just doing a different sort of thing as opposed to
Yeah.
there's not like explosions or planes or whatever
Yeah,
going on.
and here's another thing that I think might be a cost saving measure. Not necessarily that it would make sense for piece by piece to have this, but
Mm,
on the other films, especially the Lego Movie ones, which are the ones with the highest budget, uh, you're paying out a lot to license the IP that are being
yeah.
featured in those films, and so you're giving money to, I mean, just a shitload of different companies and shitload of
Hmm.
different IP holders. And so, yeah, it makes sense that you don't have any of this. This is based on real life. I mean, do they feature any like Lego IP stuff? There's not like a
No,
Lego
no,
Batman cameo or something.
no.
Emmett
There's no Lego
doesn't come through the
Batman.
portal.
Um, is there even like minions? Isn't in it? I don't think so.
Huh. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So do they? But when they do Happy, does there's no? Do they mention the word Despicable Me?
No, I don't think so,
Huh.
actually. I mean,
Hmm.
they might, but, like, I don't remember any specific, like, "Oh, they're doing, like, the
Lego Minions.
Lego Despicable Me" or
Sure.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Well,
know.
uh, you got it made, and it's out
Yeah.
there, and I'll see it eventually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because the happy thing is they mostly do, like, you remember, like, the music video that was, like, all, like, the viral people sending in themselves dancing to
Sure.
"Happy" from across the world? That's what they do for the song. Is that,
Yeah.
like, "Look at this music video. It made everyone in the world so happy."
Mhm.
Anyway, let's move
Next
on.
up, let's talk about Saturday Night, directed by Jason Reitman, released on the same day as Piece by Piece. And interestingly enough, Piece by Piece, a bigger hit than Saturday Night. I would say, at least
Yeah.
in our circles, Saturday Night, the much more talked about movie. But
Mhm.
Saturday Night has a higher Rotten Tomato score. It has grossed just slightly more, and it cost less to make. So Saturday Night's an interesting one. This is a critical success. People enjoy it, and I'm sure it
Mhm.
will pick up a fan base as it goes onto VOD and then streaming. I'm sure it'll find a lot of success there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm not exactly sure why this wasn't bigger. I think yeah, I had predicted it. Actually, no, we both had predicted it to be one of the top 10
Top
highest
5, yeah.
openings of the month, and it was nowhere close to that. Less than a
Yeah.
$3.5 million opening.
Yeah, I think with Piece by Piece and also Saturday Night, that I think there's just an interesting trend of, like, studios not being able to accurately gauge what audiences will be interested
Mm.
in.
Yeah,
Especially in October, I mean, your biggest hits were, sequels or horror sequels
correct.
effectively,
Yeah, yeah.
and then in Venom at the end of
Yeah,
the
I was
month, of
interesting. I was just
course.
looking at the movies that opened number one recently. The if you count Joker and Venom as especially horror tangential movies,
Mm.
the last four openings have been horror or spooky-ish themed
Yeah, yeah,
movies,
yeah, yeah.
R rated or something like that. Venom, Smile, Terrifier, and Joker, which we'll talk about. It's interesting that they were knocked down one by one by
Mhm.
nothing held for 2 weeks here,
Yeah,
but
I think it's also a matter of, like, we know and enjoy performances by Gabriel LaBelle
yeah,
or
yeah,
Rachel Sennett or
yeah,
Cooper
yeah.
Hoffman, but, like, these people are not
No,
movie
no,
stars. These people are not drawing an audience in. And of course, you put, like, Willem Dafoe or J.K. Simmons in the
yeah.
trailer, but, like, those
For a
guys aren't
second.
necessarily.
For a
Yeah,
second.
but also those guys aren't, like, drawing audiences
No,
in either. They're like
they never have
supporting
been.
characters,
Yeah,
supporting actors that
very
people
famous.
like a lot of the time,
Mhm,
but it's clear that the movie is not about them, and it
mhm.
is being headed up by these new, fresh faces
Yep,
that people are not familiar with, who do a good job in the movie. I mean,
totally.
we reviewed this, we liked it, we talked about it, um, but yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure if it was just our side of things who know Gabriel Bell, who know Rachel Sennett, who are really excited for this, that were overhyping it. But, like, you got to
Mhm,
think about the general audience member has to care about A, who these people are, B, who they are playing, and C, the origins of Saturday Night Live writ large.
which interestingly enough, is in a place now where it is still certainly popular and certainly watched, but it has it's lost a little bit of its luster,
Yeah.
and really only gets buzz because it crosses over with major stars a lot now.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think SNL is kind of just maybe not the name. Like if this was like a Saturday Night Live like documentary reunion story with like all the actual actors and like some of the people that are relevant today crossed over and things like that. Not necessarily in like a
Uh huh.
multiverse sort of way, whatever. But like
Yeah.
if
You know,
this
I
was
get what you mean.
somehow a Saturday Night Live history movie or something like that that featured the actual stars of the history, I think this would have been a lot bigger. But that's not what this was going for, of course. But
No.
I'm
Yeah.
saying if you want to appeal to the Saturday Night Live audience
Hmm.
and you want it to be financially successful and popular, I think that that's the way that you have to gear it. But that's a totally different project with a much bigger budget. $25
Yeah.
million is a mid-budget movie. I think this is a totally reasonable budget for this, but unfortunately, the audience wasn't there for it. And
Hmm.
I don't necessarily know if I see this being profitable at the end of the day,
No,
but
probably not.
it doesn't matter because it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It also has a feather to put in its cap that it is the second best limited opening of 2024.
Oh, okay.
Made $270,000 from
Hmm.
5 theaters. I think at the beginning of October is kind of when it opened in limited release there.
Yeah.
They tried to do a platform release situation where word of mouth builds. I think they also maybe platform released it too quickly for that to happen. I mean,
Mm,
it was a week to week to week thing, and while it's unfortunate for people who are excited to see the movie to have sort of weeks or even like a month or so in between these platforming release things, it does help word of mouth spread a little bit. There's also a middle ground there, like where you don't want it to die out. But second highest, it's behind Kinds of Kindness. Is still number one
sure.
for
Hmm,
limited release.
interesting.
It actually might be number three now because I think Honora is also on that list
Oh, okay.
for being popular. One of the better limited
For being
release openings,
popular.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when it opened wide, it finished seventh behind what we just talked about, Piece by Piece. But Saturday Night was in 500 more theaters
Hmm,
than Piece by Piece, and
hmm,
still couldn't beat it out there.
yeah.
And it is I another one I had to look through a little bit. Jason Reitman's worst performing wide release film.
Interesting. Hmm,
Yeah,
hmm.
yes, it did
Let's
not
move
make
on.
more than. Okay, let's move on. Yeah,
Let's
that's
move
fine.
on to. Or what was the movie you were going to mention? The Jason Reitman
I
movie.
was gonna say, it's just a dumb joke. It was like it didn't perform as well as Ghostbusters, if you can
Yeah,
believe
true. Yes.
it.
But next up, we have Smile 2, which is a much bigger hit. On a budget of $28 million, this movie has grossed and will gross over $100 million,
Hmm.
which is a great return on investment. It is a culturally and like just general people being aware of this movie wise, it's a step down from Smile, which was a surprise hit on a budget of $17 million. I grossed over $200 million, but this is still a comfortable hit. I'm sure they will continue this series. Parker Finn will get another movie off of this. I think this is comfortable, but it is unfortunately a step down, which is interesting because I think they did everything right. They got a bigger star. They did a little bit more
Hmm.
budget. They properly marketed this, but I think Smile is just one of those things that maybe doesn't work so well twice for the modern audience.
Sure.
The first one being a surprise, and now it being a known quantity. I think maybe there's a little bit less intrigue, but it's nothing against the performances, the production, the direction. I think they did everything right. It just didn't quite hit in the same way.
Yeah. What I would say is that they were probably looking for a bigger bump off of this one than from the first film to this one than they actually got. It
Yeah.
opened slightly higher. It was also budgeted only slightly higher, and will probably leg out to make less than the first Smile
Oh,
did, which
absolutely.
is
Yeah.
unfortunate for Paramount and the creators of this film, but like honestly, still very profitable. I think
Totally.
it also has to do with when they released this Smile. Initially, the first film was a September surprise hit release.
Mm.
This one
Mm.
opened again, basically second weekend against Venom 3.
Yeah.
So I think it is a matter of sort of
Sure.
when you're positioning these
That's a good
things.
point.
They put it in October to get like the horror Halloween audience,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sort of thing generating. But I think as we've seen with like the success of Beetlejuice, or rewinding a couple years to the first Smile, you put it in September, horror movies are going to do very well regardless.
Hmm.
You might still be able to get your residual Halloween audience back in there
Hmm.
anyway. But also, like, how many people are going to the movies on Halloween?
Well, I mean, it wasn't released on Halloween.
Yeah, but well, that's like the thinking of releasing like your film mid October though,
Mhm.
is you
Oh,
wait
I
you want to.
see.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's more just like that surrounding week. People are more interested in horror movies, and
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
seasonal thing. But you're right. I think in my mind, I see September into October as really when horror movies start to hit. I mean,
Hmm.
especially last year, we had a bunch of movies coming out. It was Exorcist and Five Nights at Freddy's and Haunting of Venice, kind of, and like all
Saw
these things.
X.
Saw 10, yeah, all stacked on top of each other. And this year was kind of that again, if you count Joker and Venom in that sort of vein.
Hmm.
But Terrifier 2 and 3 and Smile 2 are big successes. So there certainly is an appetite. And we're not going to say don't release your horror movies in October. Like, of
Right.
course you're
No.
fucking going to. But it's just interesting that despite Smile 2 being the biggest horror movie, supposedly of this season and maybe of this year when we like really break things down.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it depends if you want to count like Quiet Place as a horror film or more
oh,
of like a sci-fi thing. Because
yeah, I
yeah,
would count it.
Quiet
Yeah.
Place still is the highest grossing horror film. Or
Okay.
no, it might be Alien now. Might be Alien. We'll take a
Probably.
look
But
in a little
regardless,
bit.
it's the biggest of this season. But
Hmm.
it didn't, it didn't max out in the way that usually the top horror movie of the season does. But
Hmm.
it's still a hit.
Yeah.
Um, and this is the first film in Finn's first look deal with Paramount. Of course, he made them a lot of money on that first movie. Like, please God, make movies
Hmm.
for us. And
We're locking you down here. Yeah.
I'm sure he'll either make a Smile 3, which I would be a little bit hesitant of, but whatever if
It
they
sounds like
do.
he's also hesitant about that. He's not
Yeah,
like whole hog going like, "Oh, I want to do a trilogy." He's like, "Yeah, if another idea comes to me, maybe I'll do Smile 3, but I might want to do something else." I
yeah,
remember seeing a quote from him after the release of 2 where he's like,
yeah.
"I don't really know where to go from here, honestly,
Which
with
I think is a
Smile."
good thing because I think that this is a franchise that can gain some appeal again. I think that this movie will do very, very well on PVOD and streaming.
Mhm.
And I think that especially for a young up and coming horror filmmaker like him, I think it's a little bit. I think it's good to diversify yourself and have multiple eggs in your basket to continue forward and not be known for exactly one thing. Of course, we're seeing Damien Leone get great returns on building
Mhm.
his IP, but also those are not with a major studio. And so I think that Parker Finn having probably another horror franchise under his belt would
Yeah.
be good for him.
I don't know. I kind of see Parker Finn as a guy who might like branch out to maybe some other
Mm.
genres too. Like for whatever reason, I don't see Leone doing that. Perhaps
Yeah,
because it seems like he's more like living and breathing
yeah.
Terrifier
And he
at the
also
moment.
started his career as a special effects artist
True.
or
Yes.
practical
True.
effects artist
Yeah.
for horror movies. So he's got that in his blood. He's
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
blood in his blood.
But I did get quite a bit of demographic information for
Mm.
Smile too. So its social media influence was sort of tallied up at 154 million followers, sort of in scope and reach across like Paramount Paramount social media accounts and like Naomi Scott's social media accounts
Hmm.
and everything like that. That's the reach they sort of tallied at, which was more than Saw X and everything like that. I just like threw that in there as a comparison to like another film that sort of made its bones on its sort of
Hmm.
virality a little
Uh,
bit.
yeah,
Uh,
but also the first movie did not necessarily in the same social media way, but in like a
mhm,
viral marketing campaign.
exactly. Yes.
But yeah, I like this thing you got here. The post-track demographics for this movie. The sequel performed better with 25 age 25 plus men and under age 25 women, which is just interesting. I just imagine there's couples in there that are like
Hmm.
45 and 22 going to
Our
see Smile
problematic
too.
age gap relationships are going to see Smile too.
Yeah,
I don't know. For me, if I can extrapolate this and sort of make some rampant assumptions there, to me that's like 25-year-old plus men are like your horror heads. I
true.
kind of feel are like more ingratiated to taking appreciating Smile, and like then you're under 25 women. I mean, I don't. You have like the hook of like doing a Sabrina Carpenter or Taylor Swift style
Yeah,
hook with this. I
totally.
mean, I looked on the Wikipedia page. There's an entire tab for like the music that was released in conjunction with
Mm.
Smile 2
Oh,
that's been
okay.
doing pretty well on streaming as far as like original stuff from movies go.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty interesting. And Tucker, you mentioned the general audiences maybe being a little bit wary, a little bit hesitant, and like, oh, what else is there to do with Smile? 35% of the opening weekend audience polled cited liking the franchise as the reason they were going into Smile 2. So not a huge number
Yeah.
either. I mean, that what is that? That's 65%. 65% went in not because they really necessarily cared about the first film.
Hmm. Yeah, which I guess is probably a good thing. If most of your audience is not going specifically, which means you've got a little bit of a broader appeal. But yeah,
Yeah,
I like the movie.
I like the movie
I
too.
think that also, yeah, it's our highest average of the month
Oh
for
yeah,
our scores, which you
8.1.
see in the
Just
bottom.
squeezing out just squeezing out Saturday Night, which had an
Yeah,
8.0.
yeah, two great movies.
Yeah.
Let's end
Venom,
with
The
Venom,
Last Dance.
The Last Dance.
Let's wrap up.
I was
Tucker,
doing a
this
little
is
echo.
our last dance for talking about the movies that released this
Oh,
month.
oh, so sad.
Um,
We'll never do another October 2024 retrospective ever again. That's so
Never
sad.
again.
I
Yeah.
mean, maybe we could do it in like next March.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun. I think it'd be good.
That's
Tucker,
like our piece
this.
by piece. We're like, we don't know what market we're doing this for, but we're doing it anyway.
Mhm. In a month of perhaps some disappointments outside of like Terrifier 3, this is another one. Frankly, I mean, the tracking on this, I was going to say, was pretty high, and then it ended up only making $50 million, which is the lowest domestic opening for the entire Venom series
By a significant margin, yeah.
by a pretty big margin. I mean, we look at Venom: Let There Be Carnage. You mentioned it at the top of the episode already. $90 million opening weekend, and
Mhm.
this made 50, and is probably looking to drop off pretty steadily as reviews are
Totally.
not great. 39% for Rotten Tomatoes.
Also the
Um,
lowest Rotten Tomato score for the
I
series, I
think, yeah,
believe.
I think so.
Yeah.
But there is a silver lining here for Sony and the Spumk at large. It is the third best international opening of the year.
Interesting, okay.
That is
And
following
it
up
looks like the only non-Disney one.
exactly.
In the top
Following up
3.
Deadpool and Wolverine and Inside Out 2 being number 2 and 1 respectively there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, really interesting. Again, going back to the Joker thing, is like international audiences don't seem to be tiring of this stuff as quickly as American
Mm.
audiences are.
Yeah. Yeah. Another interesting thing about this, and the reason why I won't end up as dour on this release and its box office uh, existence and
Uh
how
huh.
well it's doing, is that this is the right way to do things in my eyes. Is this will still be very profitable for them. We're really only talking about 1 week's worth of release here,
Of course.
and so this movie has another couple weeks in theaters, $120 million budget. You can say like maybe 250 or something for
Yeah.
profitability. It is obviously going to make that, because of that, and because this is pitched as, and I believe will be the last Venom movie, they
Hmm.
see the waning interest, and we're done. We're out.
Yeah.
They're all profitable.
They're not locked in. This is not the first film in the Venom series after all.
Exactly.
They're already billing it as the last one, which
Yeah.
way I presume they were hoping would generate a little bit more of interest, but
Yeah. Probably.
but
Eh.
also, like, yeah, Tucker, you bring up a good point. This is the most recent film that we're talking about. It's got this weekend at number one, and probably this coming weekend, the weekend of November 8th at number one as
Yeah. Yeah.
well. Maybe Heretic brings it down, but I kind of doubt it.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll just have to see what the drops are.
yeah,
Because it opening at 51 means that even if it holds very well, it will. I mean, it drops off week to
yeah.
week, and so yeah, we'll see. I think that's possible, but I think this is obviously not a very well received movie. I thought it was kind of dumb fun,
Hmm.
but financially, this was not a bad
No,
call.
it helps, especially that this film only cost 120. That is only 10 million more than the previous two installments. I think we're
Mhm,
both budgeted at 110,
mhm.
so we're not seeing a rampant, out of control budget like we may have seen with another comic book movie that's escaping my memory right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, you say it's you say it's not well received, but like audiences still like it. I think these films have very consistent audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes, all around
Mm.
80%.
Oh, interesting.
Um,
Wow.
Cinema score was was lower. I think Venom and Let There Be Carnage both had B, and this one is
Mhm.
a B minus. But
Leather Carnage has a B plus down there, if that's correct.
oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Um, and then yeah, I mean, but you look at the audience, the post track sort of polling afterwards. 73% of the opening weekend audience were positive on it from their polling,
Hmm.
with 55% calling it a definite recommend
Hmm.
after the fact.
Now, I believe this is the first time we've cited post track on this show. We've been doing this for almost 2 years.
Mm.
What inspired you to start pulling post track stuff? This is like the third
What
time you mentioned it today.
when I'm scrolling through articles, Deadline especially,
Mhm.
they have a lot of post track data in
Gotcha.
there.
Okay.
Post track and Relish Mix, which I've not been able to figure out necessarily. I've gone to
Oh.
Relish Mix's website a number of times, and I'm like, I can't make heads or tails of this. I don't know how to operate this. It's not a great website either. I'm going to say that they probably have some sort of connection at Relish Mix that sort of gives them the data, but I
Oh,
can't
sure.
find it myself firsthand from their website.
Yeah.
Anyway. Tucker, let's do last time on Backlot Banter, the films of September 2024.
Yeah, let's see how they legged out over the weeks that we did not discuss them. But we started last month with Beetlejuice, which ended, and I think it's probably done by now. $443 million, another 40 in from week 5 to 9. Pretty good, pretty
Mm-hmm.
good.
Very
Uh,
good.
we have Speak No Evil from weeks 4 to 8, making another $13 million.
Yeah.
Pretty good, pretty good. Oh no, wait, no, I messed up that
11, 9.
9. We're
That's
doing
all
a little
right.
math here.
That's all right.
Uh, Transformers One, from weeks 3 to 7, only ended up at $125 million. That movie's definitely
Hmm.
lost its steam
It's a
by now.
disappointment. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Megalopolis, hey, it almost doubled
Yeah.
from
There you
weeks
go.
2 to 6, and that movie's done. That movie's
Yeah.
done, done,
Oh,
done.
yeah.
I mean, I would imagine that it made that extra 5 million in like its week 2, actually.
Yeah. Probably.
Like week
Yeah.
two, three,
Probably.
and then so the whatever.
Uh huh.
And then Wild Robot doubled from week 2 to week 6. It's gross, and I think it probably still has a couple more million left in the tank. It's
Hmm.
animated movies like to hang around,
Yeah.
um, and it's not like Piece by Piece was its competition.
No. No.
Or anything really this month. We
Yeah.
really didn't talk about any family movies actually,
Yeah, well, I
like a
don't know
single
what
one.
the yeah,
No,
I
we
guess
didn't.
Wild Robot was really your only family offering through the month of October. This is also a headline I saw. I think more of a like discussing film tweet
Hmm.
actually that was not corroborated with any article that I saw,
Yeah.
but um, it was speculated that the opening weekend of Terrifier 3 may have in fact been higher because of classic teenagers, people under the age of 17, especially buying tickets for The Wild Robot and then sneaking in to see Terrifier 3 was the
Interesting.
headline there. So, yeah, inflated the box office of The Wild Robot and got more people to see be sickos and see Terrifier 3. So,
Good. All good stuff all around, I'd say.
that's right. Rite of passage for many 13-year-olds to sneak
Yeah.
into a movie that they should not be watching.
Yeah. And it is also important to remember that a Wild Robot only cost $78 million to make.
Yeah.
So this is theatrically very profitable and will do incredibly well on PVOD and on
Yeah.
streaming. It's going to be a massive hit.
Oh yeah.
And then also, I believe they announced a sequel,
Yep.
which is there's a couple of books written by Chris Sanders, I think is the author's name. I think
Or
I'm
is that
pulling
or is
that.
that the director's name?
You
I
know
think the
what?
director is
No,
Chris
you're right.
Sanders.
Chris
No,
Sanders. Yeah.
the writer is like Peter Brown or something.
Sure. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just impressed that I remembered any name
Yeah.
associated with
Honestly.
this.
Yeah.
But that's a success. And
Yeah.
actually, I mean, well, yeah. Last month actually had three very, very successful movies.
Yeah.
So this month, wishes.
It does. Better September than most, but let's move on to our sort of month versus month, our scores of things. How did it fare? Last October, pretty light in terms of the releases.
Yeah.
Only four of them there.
Yes.
Five Nights at Freddy's, Killers of the Flower Moon, Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, and The Exorcist Believer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even with Oscar-nominated film Killers of the Flower Moon pulling out a 9.1, this month's October does fare better.
Yeah.
With
Because we have no major stinkers.
yes, and
I
who
mean, The
boy would we
Exorcist.
have?
I believe The Exorcist Believer was like it's like one of our lowest scores we ever given.
Yeah, I mean,
So that certainly makes
fittingly,
sense.
fittingly, I hate that
Yeah.
movie. I mean, two very well reviewed films that we had, Smile 2 and Saturday Night, and then
Hmm.
some films that we were a little bit divided on. Either found our scores middling, or one of us liked it and the other didn't, like Joker or Terrifier 3,
Hmm.
and then we were both kind of in the middle on Venom.
Yeah.
Let there be dance or whatever.
Yeah. And we
um,
also have the comparison to 2022 in the middle there. Just interesting to sort of think back month on month in October's what October's were in the past. And we have Till, Black Adam, Parade for the Devil, Ticket to Paradise, and Halloween Ends. That was
mm,
a fun month, but
yeah,
actually the lowest
ups
of
and
these three
downs,
here
ups and
because
downs there.
Pray for the Devil and Black Adam and Halloween Ends are all bad movies. Um,
Correct.
so even though Ticket to Paradise is fun and Till is very good,
Hmm.
you're not buoyed when you got a bunch of other schlock crap
No,
filtering in the
a lot of
sides.
crap. A
A
lot of
lot of crap.
crap. All right. I mentioned that we had better September than most last month, and that's obviously there. But we have our new updated numbers for October. These are not final, as I've come to realize. I did overhaul this and do an audit here,
Mm,
refreshed all the numbers here. So we'll take a while for the accurate number for October to be finalized, but these are based off the rough numbers as we have right now. So this October did trend below last October in terms of total box office haul. I mean, you had a big success in Eras Tour last year, and Five Nights at Freddy's did very well as
yeah.
well. And then, as we talked about, quite a few disappointments this month.
Hmm.
Even though you had some like what should have
More
been
movies.
higher profile releases: Venom
Yeah.
3, Joker 2.
Yeah, if those had both made the money that their previous installments have made, we would have seen that number like just
Yes,
dwarf what had
exactly,
come from
exactly.
last year.
But that was not the case, so that is not the case. Let's move on to
Yeah.
uh, the cumulative box office total for the year so far.
Hmm.
We're still kind of hanging in there with 2023. We've dropped slightly from last time. Last time it was about 12.5% down. We're about 13% down now.
Hmm.
So November and December will be the real kickers here
Yeah.
of like what can we
How
do
much ground can we gain
exactly.
to close that gap?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will Wicked and Gladiator be our saving graces? Do we have like the punch of in Moana 2,
Hmm.
a little bit after that, and then you get the holiday punch of Sonic 3 and Mufasa? Like,
Hmm.
are those sequels gonna be disappointments as well? Are they not gonna be disappointments? We'll have to
Will
wait and
Red
find
One
out.
make $1 billion?
Will Red One make it? Well, Tucker, I think that's one answer, one question I can't answer for you, and it's an emphatic yes. It will, hundred
Yeah, yeah.
percent.
A red
For
one
yeah, that
million dollar one
uh,
red $1 billion. Is
Re-
that? I mean,
yeah, I
that's
don't
not
know.
clever, but
What's his name? Jack O'Malley, Jack
Jack
O'Million
O'Malley and
dollars.
Callum Drift,
Yeah, a
Callum Dirt.
driftillion dollars. I don't know. It's dumb shit. We'll talk. Well, God, that's gonna be a fun
Yes,
one to
yes.
talk about.
I cannot wait to review Red
Tucker,
One.
well, no, I'm gonna wait till I want to wait till we talk about the upcoming releases of November. But
Okay.
before we get into that, we have the top 10 highest grossing films domestically of 2024. No change.
Nope.
I mean, the only change is that Beetlejuice made more money. It's at 290 now.
Yes, because everything else is older. Yeah.
Yes.
And,
Um,
and the only one that would have been because the number 10 right now is King of the Planet of the Apes at 171, and so I think we were probably expecting Joker to have cracked in
yeah,
there.
for sure, for sure.
But neither Joker, which as now has capped out at under 60, and Venom: The Last Dance, which has capped out domestically at just over 70. Of course, it still has quite a bit
Yeah,
to go,
has not
but
capped out.
it's
Yeah.
not going to make $171 million
No.
domestically, which is certainly down from its previous films.
Hmm.
So I think actually we probably, if we were tracking against the rest of those two series, we would have
Hmm.
expected two new movies to be, or well, unless no, Venom would have made $171 million its opening weekend, but
Yeah.
we would have long term expected both of those to be somewhere on this list, but they're
Yeah.
definitely not going to be. Which again,
Let There Be Carnage and first Venom were both top 10 for their years.
yeah, and so is Joker. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Obviously Joker was. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But anyway,
Let's talk about some
okay,
headlines,
Tucker.
Tanner.
Headlines, the big news of the month. Uh, The Wire is telling me that Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie have been attached to star in Emerald Fennell's next film, an adaptation of Wuthering Heights.
I think you're
That
adding
was
an R
initial
there where it's not one. Wuthering.
Wuthering Heights.
Yes.
Um, which that was the initial headline, and then there was a follow-up headline that is far more interesting to me, which is that this film was acquired by Warner Brothers after a bidding war, which included $150 million offer from Netflix. And
Now
the
it's actually
interesting,
very interesting because the reason why that would happen is not because Promising Young Woman or Saltburn were massive money makers, but
Mhm.
because Saltburn was one of the most popular streaming movies last year,
Yes,
and so you understand why a streaming giant like Netflix would want to get their hands on the next project from Emerald Fennell,
mhm.
especially with two stars like Jacob Elordi, who was big last year in both Priscilla
Saltburn.
and Saltburn, yeah, of course, and Margot Robbie, maybe the one of the biggest movie
Mhm.
stars on the planet right now. Why Netflix would do that, but I don't say this often, but thank God for Warner Brothers.
Well, Tucker, this is the thing: is that we actually should be saying maybe thank God for Emerald Fennell because she took the lower offer from Warner Brothers.
Oh no, she made a lot of money. Oh
Yeah.
no,
Simply yeah,
starving artist.
simply because of the theatrical release
Yeah,
that Warner Brothers is going to give them.
and interestingly enough, another parallel. I don't even know if we have this on here, but
Mm.
uh, um another massively successful female filmmaker right now, Greta Gerwig, is currently
Yes,
trying to wrestle her
she's
Narnia movies
pushing.
back from Netflix and try to get a theatrical release for them, which would be massive. And I really
Yeah.
hope she can do that.
There's been a lot of discussion. There was a lot of discussion in this realm over the month of October.
Mhm.
The last one, and then we'll move on to stuff that's actually written down here.
Yeah.
Is that it was sort of revealed that Daniel Craig and Ryan Johnson were having some
Yeah.
conversations, some maybe less than civil conversations with Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos
Hmm.
about their business model,
Hmm.
which I think included Daniel Craig reportedly saying that your quote your business model fucking sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've got a Wake Up Dead Man planned for next year,
Mhm.
which would, and God, please, hopefully will make a lot of money at the box office. God,
Yeah. Well,
please.
that's even a thing of like, because the thing with Netflix is that they are so vehemently opposed to theatrical releases because that was the whole reason why they came onto the market is that when they had started, decades ago now, they're like, we're gonna be the theater killer, and still they're still hanging on to this notion that
Yeah.
like they can't put their movies in theaters because the movie theater companies are the enemy to them
Hmm.
instead of, I don't know, a
They're
route
all
for
movie
your
studios.
yeah. Instead of, I don't know, a route for your movie to make more money.
They're the enemy, but they're also they're the competitors in the direct space. They all have their own fucking streaming services. I think it's ridiculous. I think it would be better for literally everyone involved to if they put their movies out in theaters. Obviously we've talked about this before, but I'm glad that major filmmakers Ryan Johnson, Greta Gerwig, Emma Fennell are pushing for this because they
Yeah.
obviously all of them having had successes in the theatrical market. Um, know that this is important.
Yes. And it's really just a matter of like doing what honestly Emerald Fennell did is like Netflix has a shit ton of money to offer you.
Yeah.
They have tons of investor money that they can burn. And it's really just a matter of like prioritizing
Hmm.
the importance of the theatrical market over that bigger paycheck, that bigger budget for your movie.
Yeah, yeah, and the one holdout that I think would really tip things, and I don't think this is particularly likely, but I hope that my boys Joe and Anthony Russo get a taste of the theatrical marketplace again when they make two more Avengers movies, and they're like, wait, hold on, we
Uh
don't
huh.
need to be making slop for Netflix anymore.
Oh, and
We
it
don't need
has
to be
been
making
slop.
Cherry for Apple TV
Oh
Plus.
boy, it has been slop, and we got more slop coming up, don't
The
we?
Electric
Uh,
State releasing in 2025.
Looks bad. Anyway, we can continue. Disney has announced a couple 2025 releases, a remake and a sequel. Those being Lilo and Stitch, the live action film, coming out on May 23rd of next year, and Freaky Friday 2, or I think it's actually called Freakier Friday, coming out on August 8th.
Well, why didn't you write that down?
Well, I didn't know that one at the time, but I'll change that right now.
Tanner, this is
Yeah.
gonna be a fucking freaky birthday for me. That's my birthday
Oh,
movie next
how
year.
about
Freakier
shout out?
Friday. Shout out to me.
Uh huh.
Friend of the show,
Um,
me.
True. Blumhouse is we had some more AI news, unfortunately. Blumhouse has selected a group of filmmakers to test Movie Gen, a generative AI video tool. This includes the director of Searching from a couple of years ago, is one of the filmmakers selected to do this. And
Well, he already did it. We
oh, did
saw it.
he?
Yeah, I told you about that. I mean, I watched the thing. It was like him as a kid making a movie or
Oh, that's right.
whatever.
He did
Yeah,
release
that
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it was.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was like
yeah.
a 2.5 minute short or whatever.
That's right. Okay, okay, okay. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
It was a two and
Wait.
a half minute short film.
Yes. Yeah. This is a sort of project that, knowing Blumhouse, cutting costs as they always love to do, we'll probably see, unfortunately, implemented in their
Totally.
films in the coming years.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the only like somewhat reasonable use I see for this stuff is like creating like an insanely fucked up AI monster for as like the villain of your
Oh,
horror
they
movie.
should
That'd be
make a
kind of sick
movie, Tucker. They should make a movie
about how AI is
where
bad.
the AI is the scary bad thing, and Tucker, that'd be a hit. AI is huge right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everyone would go to see that
And everybody
movie.
so be afraid of it. They'd be so afraid of it.
What? Say that again?
Hmm. All right, let's move on to
Yeah.
Luca Guadagnino news, which honestly, I would love to just go back and track how many times Luca Guadagnino gets his dumb fucking name on these headlines because it's like every single month.
Yeah.
Luca Guadagnino will direct a remake of American Psycho for Lionsgate.
Hmm.
Lionsgate, they're like, what IP do we have?
Yes,
Let's dig through the
correct.
back catalog.
Exactly. That is exactly what they're thinking. Like, I suppose it's time. And this obviously resulted in a ton of people on Twitter being like, "This hot guy should play Patrick Maven. No, this hot guy should play
Yeah,
Patrick."
and but the thing is, this is a remake, but what it really is an adaptation. And so
Yeah.
I'm okay with this. In the same way Emerald Fennell's making New Wuthering Heights, this is a new adaptation of American Psycho, Luke Guadagnino, very good filmmaker.
Hmm.
I have full confidence to be a very good movie. Will it be
All
will it be
these.
popular? I don't know. But I also have to say, Tanner, I'm a little disappointed in you. Let's combine this with a little Lionsgate news that I know about.
What's that?
Lionsgate has announced that they are making an adaptation of Outlast, the video game
Oh
series.
yes, that's
And
right.
so they're pulling out all the stops.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure Luca has said the same thing that all these fuckers say when they are doing like a remake of a movie that is adapted from a book or whatever. He's like, well, really, it's an
It's
adaptation of the.
closer to the book, yeah.
It's closer to the book than the original film.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah,
Why do you know about that book?
yeah.
Why does anyone
Yep,
care
yep.
about that book?
Well, speaking of video games movie with Outlast, Sony has dated their Until Dawn film to release on April 25th,
Ooh,
2025.
we'll be getting a trailer for that soon, probably.
Yeah, probably. Probably in front of Craven.
Absolutely. Well, 100
Yeah,
percent because that'll be their next major film. Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
Christopher Nolan. This was like the really big everyone up in a tizzy news of the month. Nolan has confirmed his next film will release on July 17th of 2026. It will star Matt Damon and Tom Holland.
Yeah.
And initially, there was a lot of buzz. Everyone was like, "I heard the movie was about this." No, I heard the movie was about that. But it seems, based on some production weekly postings, that it is a film about two helicopter pilots testing some like an experimental high
Helicopter.
tech helicopter or some shit, and then there are terrorists who want to steal the helicopter.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't really care. Well, I do care because I'm going to see this movie. I'm sure it'll be good. But like,
uh-huh.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
But it was just really fascinating to me that like that kind of speculation that's like I heard the movie was about this. Oh, I heard that this guy was in it. He's playing this kind of character. Is like that's only reserved for like comic book movies
Mm,
now in this day and age. And like Christopher Nolan opened up an entirely different door. That's like he's not adapting anything. Well, he actually is. Apparently, it might be like based or loosely based on this movie from the '80s called Blue Thunder. But anyway,
mm.
um, but he's like, like it could be anything. People were like, I heard it's a horror movie. I heard it's about vampires. I heard it's a prison break movie. I heard it's a spy movie. I heard it's a helicopter movie.
Now, where are people getting this? Like, they're just pulling this out of their ass, or
No,
like,
I don't know.
who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. The prison break thing is something that apparently Nolan has wanted to make for a long time, and then the spy movie thing was people being like, he's wanted to make a Bond for a long time, but the
Sure.
Broccoli family won't let him make a Bond, or not in the
They're
way
too
that he
scared of
wants to
money.
make it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, Tom Holland news following this up. The next Spider-Man film will release the week after Christopher Nolan's new film on July 24th, 2026. Will be directed by Destin Daniel Cretton.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that he's not handling two Avengers movies or whatever, because I would be
Yeah,
scared for that man's sanity. But
yeah,
sure, I mean, he can do some action. The Spider-Man films have been good. It'll be the first Tom Holland Spider-Man film without John Watts as the director,
correct.
so it'll be very
Yeah.
interesting to see how tonally it changes, if at all.
Hmm.
But sure, I mean,
Why not?
this is it's actually fascinating when you think about it, Tanner. That will have been almost a 5-year gap between Spider-Man movies. That's a
Yeah,
long time. That's actually, I would look this up. That's longer than it was between Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Homecoming. So
yeah,
this is the
and
longest gap
the
between live action
same
Spider-Man
time.
movies.
Oh yeah, Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man was '07 and 12, so that was 5 years.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, yeah,
well, we don't remember exactly when they came out in those years,
exactly,
but it's
exactly.
around that time. And but this is a continuation. It's
Yes.
fascinating. I'm excited for this movie. I love Tom Holland Spider-Man,
Mhm.
and so Tanner, you know what? I'll watch this one.
Okay, that's fair. Everyone bust out your favorite Tom Holland merchandise for July 2026.
Now,
It's going to
one
be
thing I
Holland
have
time all the
heard,
time. Yeah.
one thing I have heard is that
Oh,
this is
here we
going
go.
to be a like null Venom, like
Yes.
the end of the
So
universe horse
this
shit
was the
fucking thing.
rumor, especially as Venom 3 was coming out with Null, is that like Null is going to be the villain of this film. And yeah, so but we'll also see. I mean, they're probably starting to write this movie, get a finalized script in place right now.
Yeah.
So yeah. Hey Tucker, more MCU news. Blade has been delayed indefinitely.
What?
It's so sad. It's really sad after all. It was initially dated for November 7th, 20. Well, not initially. The most recent date for it was November 7th, 2025. Now that has been scrubbed from the release calendar, that spot has been taken by, hey, check it out, Predator Badlands.
And Predator Badlands is a theatrical released film. Cheesin'.
Correct.
Cheesin'.
Though not the only Predator film coming out next year, because apparently Dan Trachtenberg is making a second secret Predator movie that will probably be released on streaming, though we don't know that for a fact,
Yeah.
and also might be an animated project as well.
I heard that it was an animated anthology.
Okay, okay, sounds good. Okay, I'm down for that. I'm down for that,
Sure.
baby. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not
Um.
because I don't like anthology films, but whatever.
Oh, sure. Oh, also apparently,
Just make it 3 episodes of a animated limited Predator short series that I don't have to watch.
there you go. That is not a film, and I don't feel entitled to watch
Yeah.
it. Um. Also, apparently, Mahershala Ali is like happy with the script of Blade right now, and they're close to getting another director attached. Sure, buddy.
Yeah.
You Blade reporters, you keep rocking in your corners, telling yourselves that this movie is coming out. It's not coming out. And finally, off the back of Piece by Piece and the rampant success that that movie saw,
Yeah.
Universal has announced 3 new Lego movies from Jake Kasdan, Patty
Director of Wed
Jenkins,
1.
Wed One, that's right, Patty Jenkins.
Jay Kasdan, director of Wed 1. Patty Jenkins, director of Wonder Woman 1984. And
Mhm.
Joe Cornish, who I've never heard of.
Joe Cornish, hang on, I looked him up and I forgot what
Joe
he did.
Cornish, director of Attack the Block.
Oh yes, that's right.
And The Kid Who Would Be King.
Wow.
Wow.
Anyway, I think they're also making a new Ninjago movie, but that's
Sure.
neither here nor there.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. When are
Mhm.
these movies going to happen? Who knows?
Yeah. Universal going all in on their Lego ownership now, so that's
Yeah.
nice. Okay, talking the new releases of November 2024. Let's talk about them. Let's wrap it up the episode here. So we have seen the release of Here already. We have a review
Mhm.
out for that film. You can go watch that.
We have not seen and will not see Juror number 2 because
At least
David
not
Zaslav hates
theatrically.
everyone.
Yeah, that film was released in less than 50 theaters worldwide. So cool stuff there, Warner Brothers. Very cool
Thank
stuff.
you.
Next week, or this coming weekend, I should say, sees the release of A24's Heretic,
Mhm.
another Lionsgate film in the best Christmas pageant ever. And
Mine's getting on a real run recently, huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
And the weekend after that is Red One and A Real Pain.
Sure.
Um,
I'm
and
sure it is.
I wanted to save this until now, Tucker. Do you know the budget of Red One?
It isn't like $270 million, something ridiculous like that.
Yes, I think it's 250.
250.
I think last tracking had it at opening to about $20 million.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
gonna be so tasty when that thing falls flat on its face.
They're
It's
gonna
gonna
get
be
my
so
AMC
good.
A-list money or whatever. So
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm paying for A Real Pain that weekend
sure.
instead.
Yeah.
So
Good
yeah.
idea.
And then our Thanksgiving releases are Wicked and Gladiator 2 come out on the same day, November 22nd.
Hmm.
And then Moana 2 is your Thanksgiving Wednesday release. That comes out on November 27th.
Hmm.
And Luca Guadagnino's Queer is also hitting limited release at the end of the month. So
Sure.
there's that.
Nice full month, a lot to talk about, and I can't wait to look back next month, see how all these movies have done, laugh at Red One, hopefully
Yep.
be surprised by Heretic. I hope all these movies are good.
Yeah. Hopefully got some big old runaway smash hits in like Wicked and Gladiator, and I'm sure Moana 2 will make a stupid amount of money. Apparently that is that has broken the record for pre-sales set by Inside Out 2 this
Oh,
year. So
interesting.
it'll probably open bigger than Inside Out 2.
Okay, well, maybe if we look at my November 2024 box office ranking predictions, the fact that I have Wicked at number 1 just to fuck with you a little bit is
Oh,
not a
okay.
good idea, maybe.
No. Well,
But
what we can do is that if we want to make it a little bit more sporting, even though it'd be hard to track, and we don't really do this, is that I put Moana 2 there for sure because of the 5-day weekend it's going to have.
okay,
Because
so
it
what's the
opens on
sporting thing?
Wednesday. We could do 3-day, even though that'd be hard to quantify.
Yeah, we'll just see what happens, and I'll probably
Okay.
just be wrong. I'm very comfortable with that.
That's it. Okay. And then I have Wicked at number 2 because if we did 3-day, it'll probably be very close because
Mm.
Wicked is looking to open very well.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about the 5-day. I
Yeah,
always forget about that when I'm
yeah,
like putting
yeah.
these shit down. So,
And then yeah, then we both have Gladiator 2 at number 3, and then Red One and Heretics. Tucker, let
mhm.
me lay some numbers down for you
All
here real
right.
quick.
Here are your predictions for how much money these movies will make in their opening weekend domestically.
Okay. Moana 2 over a 5-day weekend will make $160 million.
I think it's too high.
Too high?
I
Okay.
think it's
You know,
too
that's
high.
fair. It really depends on how that movie reviews. If the word of mouth is good, I think it could hit that. If it's middling or not great,
Hmm.
as some people are saying that it kind of looks like, apparently, because it reworked from a TV series, whatever, that it might be lower than that. But I just saw those numbers of like bigger pre-sales than Inside Out
Yeah,
2,
yeah,
and I
no,
was
it's
like,
totally fair.
Jesus fucking Christ. All
Yeah,
right.
no, that's the best.
Yeah.
I try to do a little bit of vibes, which is not the greatest way to do
Yeah.
a list, but that's a very smart way to predict things.
Yeah.
Wicked,
Wicked, I'm gonna say $100 million opening.
sure, 3 day, $100 million. Goddamn.
Mhm. Yeah. Gladiator 2, I'm gonna say $70 million.
Okay. Oh, buddy, I hope.
Yeah, yeah.
Buddy, I hope. I do not have faith in that, but we will see.
Okay, okay. Then Red One, I'm going to say $20 million.
That's a drop.
Uh-huh. And Heretic, I'm gonna say 10.
Sure.
It's my classic go-to for
Yeah.
like an A24 horror movie. I'm like,
And you
yeah,
know
somewhere
what?
like $10 million.
And you know what, Tanner?
What's that?
I will say that I think you're too high on Moana and Gladiator. I think you're high enough on Red One and Heretic. I think that Red One will. I think they just spent so much money on this, dude. But I mean, we're also probably looking down the barrel of the next Argyle. So
Yes, that is a great quantifier. I think
but
it is
but
definitely the next Argyle.
but but Callum Drift and Jack O'Malley. I mean,
Ah,
but
these classic characters
the
that
the Rock
that
is
people love.
is a massive box office draw, and so I think that that's
Mhm.
really the just he's in a new movie. Okay, I'll go see that. I
Yeah,
think
that's
that
a fair
that
point.
factor will bump things up.
There
Yeah,
might be some walk up business there,
yeah,
and that'll be coming out in a weird spot where like we're way far removed from Venom and like
yeah,
not quite at Gladiator and Wicked, so
yeah,
people
yeah.
might be hurting for a movie to go see, and they're like,
Potentially, if they're
I
not like,
guess Red One.
I'll be seeing Wicked, Gladiator, and Moana in a couple days. Maybe they're like,
Yeah, that's a good point.
but also
Yeah.
maybe they're just like, I gotta see a movie. Maybe they need
Getting
their
shit,
fix.
yeah. So there you go. We'll see what happens next month. I think next month will be a better month, especially for our top three
Totally,
movies there. So
totally.
cool stuff to talk about. Tucker, thank you so much for joining me for talking this box office ballyhoo. Audience, thank you so much for joining us for listening to this box office ballyhoo. If you have any thoughts on the
You
month
don't
that
think
was
of yourself
October,
enough. You deserve it. Thank
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. Oh, I should thank myself.
Yeah,
You
you
know what?
should. I'm not
I
gonna
would
do
like
it.
to. I'd like to thank me for
Hosting.
these really prescient predictions that I've made. I think
Yeah.
that'll all be 110% correct. Have you had thoughts on October? Let us know in the comments. We'll be happy to talk about box office stuff in our Discord server, link in the description, of course. If you differ on opinions on our November predictions, of course, let us know, and we'll be returning to talk about all this next month. We'll see you then.